It was the Mahatma's dream to link the entire country with the thread of Hindi. So when Narendra Modi goes abroad and speaks only in Hindi to international dignitaries, regardless of the language that they speak, is he actually promoting Indian culture, or is it thrusting majoritarianism? Several people in the northeast and in the south are upset with the fact that Narendra Modi wishes only to speak in Hindi, even to those who speak English, despite the fact that he can converse reasonably well in English. Now, is bringing out the Hindi identity a way of bringing out the united colors of India, or should Modi speak in English to those who speak English, given the fact that he can speak English?
We have also seen that it has made lives of the people better.
Yes, we can speak in English, that is, but his diplomatic language of choice is Hindi.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि
Whenever Prime Minister Modi meets his counterparts from other countries, interpreters are deployed in almost all his meetings, even if the dignitary responds in English, like the Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa. That's right, Modi set the ball rolling during his meetings with SAARC leaders right after he took over as the country's Prime Minister, and he intends to continue doing just that even during his visits abroad.
हिंदी को प्रायोरिटी देने का बात नहीं है, प्रायोरिटी होना ही चाहिए, वो हमारे राज्य भाषा.
No surprise then that Modi intends to talk to US President Barack Obama in Hindi during his first official trip to America as a Prime Minister in September.
English has been the official language for communication by and large in the Prime Minister's office. For the first time, there is a change with Narendra Modi becoming the Prime Minister. Not just his typists and personal staff, but other bureaucrats are also slowly adopting Hindi fonts in their computers, and the Prime Minister's office is slowly shifting to Hindi. Will this trend now spread to other ministries? Remains to be seen.
Modi's Hindi mission is surprisingly getting a positive response from the usually not so welcoming Dravidian leaders.
Several dignitaries who come from the various countries, they use their own language. There will be the people who are going to translate that. Hindi is our mother tongue.
Rivals are surprised as Modi rode to victory riding a high-tech virtual poll campaign, because Modi believes in matching steps with the new world order. As always, Modi is leading by example.
Foreign countries में भी हम भी गए हैं, many countries, so वहाँ के लोग वो अपनी भाषा में बोलते हैं, और there are always interpreters are there, and then they immediately communicate.
However, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has only been using English during all the meetings so far. On Sunday, the Chinese Foreign Minister will be visiting India. Will she choose to follow in Modi's footsteps? Many years back, former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave a speech at the UN. Can Modi carry Vajpayee's tradition forward? Will he succeed in linking Hindi with Hindustan? Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Is Narendra Modi smashing the elitism of people who speak English, who believe that English is the global language and therefore when an Indian leader goes abroad he must speak in English? Or is he actually thrusting a majoritarian outlook on a country which doesn't recognize Hindi as its official language? Joining us on center stage this evening, I want to begin by introducing Ambassador K.C. Singh. Dr. Ved Pratap Vaidik is a political analyst, one of the foremost experts on the Hindi language in the country. Thiru Murugan Gandhi is an expert and an activist on the Tamil language. Bina Lakshmi Nepram is a well-known writer, activist from Manipur. I want to ask Bina Lakshmi Nepram first, what exactly, madam, is your problem if Narendra Modi speaks only in Hindi, even to people who speak in English? You wouldn't catch a French leader, a German leader, a Japanese leader or a Chinese leader speaking in English. They will promote their own language. Vladimir Putin would not speak anything apart from Russian. Why are you then expecting Modi to speak any other language apart from Hindi?
India is a land of over 1,000 languages, And my own language, Manipuri or Meitei Loan that I speak, is a part of the 22 scheduled languages, and it is one of those 22 official languages that Government of India have recognized. Our point is not the issue that Modi speaks in Hindi abroad or here. It's a question of, this is a land of 1.2 billion people where not everybody is speaking Hindi, though we love Hindi films and understand that. But there is an issue that, as I said, India is a land of over 1,000 languages, and as a result, to connect, and Hindi is not our national quote-unquote language. It's an official language together with English. Okay, so it will take some time for us to really come to it. I understand language as a political process for a country to move ahead, but to just stress that only Hindi and only Hindi should be spoken in the country, that would really...
but Tirumurugan Gandhi, no one has stressed that only Hindi must be spoken. Today, when people took oath, several like Sumitra Mahajan, Sushma Swaraj took their oath in Sanskrit. Modi is not telling you or anyone else to speak in Hindi. He is only saying when he gets the opportunity to speak abroad or to a SAARC leader like Mahinda Rajapaksa who spoke to him in English and Modi replied only in Hindi. It's his wish, it's his desire. Why do you have a problem with it, Mr. Gandhi?
The Modi is representing a multicultural, multi-ethnic country. Hindi is not a language, mother tongue of any nationality in India. It doesn't represent anything like that. If he really represent a multicultural country, he should represent the various languages. And probably if that is the case, he would love to address in the mother tongue, then he should go and talk in Gujarati rather than going on a Hindi. Hindi is not a national language. And we should encourage the people, multi-ethnic, multicultural people to promote their mother tongue. That is good for the country. We are not Germans.
So what's your problem with Hindi? Hindi is the language that the maximum number of people speak. Why do you have a problem if Narendra Modi were to greet Barack Obama, say namaste and speak to him only in Hindi? Does it not make India feel that Indian languages are being taken on the international landscape as opposed to having an Indian Prime Minister like Manmohan speak only in English to whichever global counterpart he met?
See, we have millions of dogs as animal here, but we chose tiger as a national animal. It's not about a majority or a minority. It's about the value system that you represent. So why you have peacock instead of a crow? So it's not just with the kind of a majority thing. Hindi don't have any, it doesn't represent any nationality, doesn't represent any cultural thing.
Hindi does not represent our nationality, it does not represent Indian culture. If he wants to speak in his mother tongue, he should actually be promoting Gujarati. Dr. Ved Pratap Vaidik has a wide smile on his face. How do you respond, sir, to the comments that have been made by Ms. Nepram and Mr. Gandhi?
ये जो इन्होंने कहा कि देश की सारी भाषाओं को मौका मिलना चाहिए
जी,
मैं इनकी बात से सहमत हूं कि हिंदुस्तान की सब जुबानें पूरा अधिकार है उनको और उनमें बोला जाना चाहिए। लेकिन अगर हमको हमारी विदेश नीति चलाना है, दुनिया के 200 मुल्कों से हमको बर्ताव करना है, तो हमारे देश की अपनी एक भाषा होनी चाहिए। दुनिया के सारे देश और दुनिया के जो बिग पावर्स हैं, ग्रेट पावर्स हैं, उन सब की अपनी भाषा है। उन्होंने संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ में भी अपनी भाषाओं को मान्यता दिलाई है और विदेश नीति से मेरा गहरा संबंध है। विदेश नीति पर हिंदुस्तान में किसी भी हिंदुस्तानी ज़ुबान में सबसे पहला पीएचडी का थीसिस लिखने वाला स्कॉलर मैं हूँ। आज से करीब 50 साल पहले इसको लेकर एक बहुत बड़ा आंदोलन देश में हुआ था।
As does Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you are currently on an English broadcast being watched by people presumably who prefer English to Hindi, which is why they're watching this broadcast. Why would you then not answer in English? Why would you answer in Hindi? Now, when you go on a Hindi channel, when you're on my sister channel, Aaj Tak, by all means speak in Hindi, but why not speak in English?
जाता हूँ, ईरान जाता हूँ तो फारसी में बात करता हूँ।
No, but that's the question. That's the question. That why not speak in English? Yes.
Yes.
You want to make a point?
I'll just speak in Manipur has over 39 ethnic groups, and we have got 39 different dialects in my home state. But the lingua franca is Manipuri, Maithilon, which is one of the scheduled languages under the Indian Constitution. Now, a few years back, a couple of activists tried to impose that main language, and it really didn't go down well. So even in the mini state like Manipur, and India is a subcontinent, as again previous speakers have spoken. So we are not against English.
Okay, so Casey is saying
it's extremely
you
important.
wouldn't catch the president of France or the leaders of China, Japan speaking any language apart from their own. So is unnecessary halabaloo being made if Narendra Modi insists he will speak only in Hindi and not in English, even though he speaks reasonable English?
Now we are talking of two different things.
Yes.
One is the language internally, whether it should be used, what language should be used to communicate with our friends from Tamil Nadu or Karnataka and so on and so forth. And second is internationally. Now internally it's unfortunate if we start this controversy now, because I thought something which was a very, very explosive controversy in the 60s we had put behind us. You remember the starting of the Hindi service in Tamil Nadu. There were riots in Tamil Nadu in the late 1960s. The fact that the average Indian had facility in the English language was one of the reasons we excelled at information technology. And the knowledge-based economy is based on a command of the English language. So nobody any longer amongst the younger generation was debating the need or not to study English. Even in China, they are now teaching English very aggressively as a second language for outsourcing business and so on and so forth. It's a globalized economy. Second is externally. Externally, I have no problem at all. I think one thing is to know English. Another thing is to be absolutely comfortable in it. He may or may not be, we don't know. His speaking in Hindi is his choice. That's all right. For an Indian leader to be speaking in Hindi is perfectly fine. The very first speech at the UN General Assembly is always the Brazilian president. And he starts the first speech to the UNGA in Portuguese. So there is nothing wrong with that. You have to just make the facilities at the UN available for simultaneous interpretation, and you can speak in whichever language you want. So Hindi can be used there.
Okay, but Dr. Ved Pratap Vaidik, even Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who spoke famously in the United Nations General Assembly in Hindi, when he would do a bilateral meeting, would actually speak in English with whoever he was meeting. So why is Prime Minister making a big deal of speaking only in Hindi? Is it because he's more comfortable in Hindi, or is he sending out a larger message also about his Hindi identity, or about Hindi being linked to his identity, Dr. Vaidik?
Now, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी के साथ कई बार मुझे विदेश जाने का मौका मिला है और विदेशी राज्यों के नेताओं के साथ वहां बैठकर बात करने का भी मुझे मौका मिला है। अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी प्रायः हिंदी में उनसे बात करते थे, और जब वो विदेश मंत्री थे तो जगत मेहता विदेश सचिव थे, वो ट्रांसलेट करते थे, और जब वो प्रधानमंत्री थे तो भी विदेशी नेताओं के साथ उनकी बातचीत को अनुवाद किया जाता था, और इसी प्रणाली को नरेंद्र मोदी आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं.
But Dr. Vaidik, your responses in Hindi bring out the essence of our debate tonight. You understand and speak perfectly good English. Instead, you choose to answer in Hindi. Now, if you were on our sister channel, Aaj Tak, participating in a Hindi debate, your responses in Hindi would make perfect sense. But when you understand and speak the language, why would you not choose to respond in English? Because everyone watching this broadcast presumably speaks more English than Hindi, or is preferring to watch this broadcast in English instead of watching a Hindi broadcast. So that's the point that both Mr. Gandhi and Ms. Nepram are making. When you are speaking in to someone who speaks English, speak back in English if you can. When you're speaking to someone in Hindi, speak in Hindi. Dr. Vaidik.
Yeah, I can speak in English, there is no problem. I can speak several other languages. I know Russian, Persian, German and Sanskrit and many other languages.
Yes.
But Hindi is the language of the masses. And you represent, as a Prime Minister, the masses of India. You don't represent only a few 2% of the people in this country. So those who have voted you to power Do you want to use their language or do you want to be an elitist?
That's interesting.
This is the dilemma.
You're saying
for
those who
all
have
the prime
voted you to
ministers.
power.
So
What
I
about
believe-
those you haven't? Because you
don't-
represent them also. Mr. Gandhi wants to come in and respond to what Dr. Vaidik is saying, Mr. Gandhi.
See, it looks totally undemocratic say that he represents the majority of the population, so he should talk in the language of Hindi. That is not a democracy. Democracy doesn't mean the rule of majority. It's an inclusive attitude that can make the India survive as one country. It is a multi-ethnic, multinational, multi-linguistic country.
Yes,
you cannot just
I
promote
agree
one
with you.
language.
I agree with
and the way that he is talking to the debate is look arrogant. He knows a language. That why he doesn't speak in that? You see, you should respect the other people.
No.
We should
Dr.
know what is
Vaidik,
all about.
Mr. Gandhi
why-
thinks it's a sign
why
of
should you-
disrespect
why should you-
that you speak English and yet
Undemocratic.
instead choose to answer in Hindi. He may or may not understand Hindi. Why would you superimpose your language on him when he'd rather have you conversing back to him in English than in Hindi, sir?
Did you ask me?
Yes, Dr. Vaidik, I did.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please repeat it.
No, I'm saying that Mr. Gandhi is taking affront to the fact that you're speaking in Hindi to him when he'd rather that you speak in English. He says, especially when you speak English, since this is an English program, since he speaks English, you should speak back to him in English instead of speaking in Hindi, and he's connecting that also with what Prime Minister Narendra Modi is doing. How do you respond to Mr. Gandhi and to other activists who represent other languages, sir?
Right. I would love to respect all Indian languages, and in fact, Narendra Modi is not a Hindi-speaking gentleman. He speaks Gujarati. His mother tongue is Gujarati. He is like Mr. Gandhi or like anybody from Chennai or Kerala. So please don't blame Narendra Modi for being a Hindi chauvinist. He has taken oath for the allegiance of the Constitution, and the Constitution says, you please read the Constitution and its provisions, that Hindi is the official language of this country. English is used if Hindi is not available. When Hindi is available,
no, because Article 371 says it shall be the duty of the Union to promote the spread of Hindi, to develop it so that it may serve as a medium of expression for all the elements of the composite culture of India, and to secure its enrichment by assimilating without interfering with its genius, the forms, the style and expressions used in Hindustani and in other languages. But I want to ask KC Singh whether there is a possibility that we could see the sort of dissent that we saw earlier. We're hearing reports now that keyboards in the Prime Minister's office, they're putting Hindi captions on them. He wants the correspondence to be in Hindi. Will there be fear among people in the South and the Northeast that Hindi is once again being imposed on them, that this is part of a larger majoritarian agenda, as Dr. Vaidik says? Those are the people who voted for him, and that's what Modi is doing.
No, this is what I was hinting earlier. This was a very severe controversy in the late 60s.
Let Ambassador KC Singh speak right now. I'm coming back to you, Dr. Vaidik. Ambassador KC Singh, go ahead.
With All India Radio in then Madras starting Hindi broadcasts, and this has started writing. I remember as a student, I had gone to Sri Lanka and we were in a train coming back in 1968, and we were afraid for our lives because there were mobs there burning up the bogies. So this is back in the 60s. Now you don't want to start another controversy like that. If you write a letter, if PMO writes a letter to Tamil Nadu in Hindi, I'm sure they'll get a response back in Tamil, because it's generally acknowledged that English is the link language.
Dr. Vaidik.
It's a controversy which needs not have been revised.
No. Our center should be multilingual. The central government should write every letter to Tamil Nadu in Tamil language, and it should receive all the letters in Tamil language. Why? Tamil is no less than Hindi. Gujarati is no less than Hindi. All languages
No, but Dr.
of India
Vaidik,
are
KC
very
Singh
good.
suggests
They are
that there is a
world-class
possibility
languages.
that you could see similar strife to what we saw in the 60s and the 70s. I thought that controversy was behind us, that we'd moved on into the future. We'd embraced English as the language, which was the modern language of the globe, which everyone spoke and brought the world together. And India actually had the advantage over China of having more people who spoke English.
Well, let me give you one example.
Not at all. English, the compulsion of English has harmed India. The compulsion, the imposition, the monopoly of English on the minds of our people has made it, all of us, as slaves, intellectual slaves.
I don't
You're saying
linguistic
intellectual slaves. That's a very
It has
contentious issue.
hampered all
Casey
our
Singh wants to
progress.
come in. Yes, Casey.
When I was ambassador in Abu Dhabi in 2000, 2001, there was a French delegation from Quebec in Canada which was going around. It came and called on me in Abu Dhabi saying, why is French not being used on the internet? Because France and French speakers were competing about the primacy of the English language on the internet, but they lost. Now, as I said, even the Chinese are teaching English very aggressively to their children. Now, we are now trying to go in the reverse direction.
Absolutely. Veena Lakshmi Nepram is offended by what Dr. Vaidik says. He's saying speaking English makes us intellectual slaves.
I think, first of all, I think there are a couple of things that we must know. As I said, again, I repeat it, India is a land of 1.2 billion people. For example, 45 million live in India's northeast. I studied Hindi only till class 8. But we learn more Hindi through Bollywood films and others, and I loved it when Hindi was over in class 8. But it doesn't make me lesser a citizen than many others, you know. It's about communication. So we have to be really be clear about it. Here I am seeing the politics of language being done at the moment. If Mr. Honorable Prime Minister is from Gujarat and he thinks and dreams in Gujarati, is someone imposing him to speak in Hindi? Is it about a politics of a certain group or section of people who are saying all Indians should speak Hindi? And again, I think the normal citizens will protest. And the other thing, English definitely, you know, language makes a nation richer. We should celebrate the richness of different languages.
Thirumurugan Gandhi wants to respond to the point made by Dr. Vaidik on speaking English makes us intellectual slaves, Mr. Gandhi.
See, we should promote a mother language based education system and based communication system. That should be the way that we should build our societies, because the mother tongue carries the richness of the culture of the ethnic nationalities. If a country, India, is going to be more civilized in that sense, it should respect the regional languages, it should respect the regional ethnicities and nationalities. If Narendra Modi finds it very comfortable, he feels that he stands on his own personal fit to talk to foreign persons, then let him speak in his mother tongue, it wouldn't be a problem. Likewise, every other people, every other ministers, every other representative talk in their mother tongue. What's wrong in it? So it's not that Hindi is the only thing that it is a greatness, or it represents the Indianness. So it is their mother tongue, and the mother tongue has got the richness and it is the knowledge of the 2,000, 3,000 years of history is there with them. So I have my personal fit, and I can talk when I speak in mother tongue.
Vaidik, quick final comments.
At least one language. But for the conduct of foreign policy, you must have at least one common language, so that at the United Nations, you cannot ask the UN to recognize 22 languages. You can ask only for one language, and if you are able to pay for 22 languages, go ahead. I don't mind it.
This is a very contentious issue.
I love all the Indian languages.
We don't wish to tell you what side to take. You've heard passionately argued comments made by Thirumarugan Gandhi and Ms. Nepram. You've also heard what Dr. Vaidik says, and you've seen Casey Singh provide a more neutral, more nuanced perspective. You decide where you stand on this deeply divisive issue. The reality is Narendra Modi wants to speak Hindi. Internationally, there is acknowledgement that that is okay. Whether he should speak in Hindi in India, two people like Veena Lakshmi Nepram, who, when they get an opportunity as an activist to meet Modi, would rather have him speak back in English rather than Hindi. It's something that the Prime Minister himself needs to decide on. And also, for all of you, take your positions on this. We're slipping into a break. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Look forward to seeing you at 9:30 p.m. tomorrow evening. News and updates continue when we come back on the other side of a quick break.